Today's Talk About It Tuesday question is, does it matter when you decide to put property in a trust? Good question. There's so much foolishness being spread around on social media now, advice being given by people who have no clue what they're talking about in regards to trusts and other financial information. So let me clarify. I've done a video on trust, so please look that one up too. It's very thorough. But let me just go over what a trust is first, the main reasons why you would use it, how it works, and then you can decide the most appropriate time if you decide to even use a trust, because it's not for everyone. So a trust is a legal and financial arrangement in which a grantor or trustor, right, takes assets, their personal assets, and the assets can be cash, real estate, personal property, investments. It can be anything like that. Their assets, takes their personal assets and puts them into this trust, right? So a trust is like a bowl. And that means they're relinquishing ownership and control of those assets. And those assets are to be managed, and the wishes of the parameters of the trust are to be carried out by a trustee. So that means you're giving permission to a second party, another party, to administer your wishes for the assets you give up ownership and control of in this trust for the benefit of a beneficiary, a third party. So a grantor giving up ownership and control and the benefits of assets to a trust, which is again a legal and financial arrangement, and it can be very broad in terms of what the instructions are for the distribution of the assets in the trust for a beneficiary. Can you be a beneficiary also? Absolutely. But the trustee now manages the assets and distributes your wishes or the wishes of the trust agreement. So what are some of the primary reasons people use a trust for real estate? As an estate planning tool, it allows for ease of transition, right? Ease of transition for the asset to the beneficiary with the avoidance of probate, right? It's a smooth, and so as opposed to a will, which can get challenged and contested by other family members, a trust, it would be very difficult to contest a trust. And so there's an ease of transition of assets from the grantor to the beneficiary. And the beneficiary doesn't have to be a human being. It can be an entity also, right? It can be an organization, right? But for the benefit, so it's an ease of transition as an estate planning tool. It affords privacy of the transition, whereas a will is often a public part of public records. A trust is a private document. So the public doesn't know the assets that were transferred to your beneficiaries. So those are two really primary reasons as an estate planning tool. And there's some tax avoidance in terms of estate tax avoidance sometimes that you can get a tax benefit from it. But those are the primary reasons as an estate planning tool. As an asset protection tool, you oftentimes do it, one, to be able to manage an asset you no longer can manage yourself. So the trust has to now manage it, meaning maintenance and repairs come from the assets in the trust. You're no longer responsible for it, nor can you provide the maintenance and repair. Also, it can insulate that from creditors because it no longer belongs to you. So it can provide some protection against creditors and lawsuits if that was your situation. So as an asset protection tool, as an estate planning tool, is beneficial in some instances. What are the drawbacks? You've given up ownership and control. You've given up the benefits that it can produce. So if it produces rent, that becomes part of the trust. Any income it produces becomes part of the trust. you cannot sell it and get the rewards from it because it belongs to the trust. You cannot refinance it and get the capital from the refinance because it belongs to the trust. So you're also giving up control and trusting the trustee to do what's right because you've given that up. You've relinquished all those things. So ownership, control, and benefit, you have given up. So there are several types of trusts, but the two main ones that most people use are called a revocable living trust and an irrevocable trust. So a revocable living trust means while you are alive, the asset is in the trust, and whatever your, again, conditions are for the beneficiary to benefit from it are there. However, you have the ability to change anything in the trust while you are living. Once you die, it becomes automatically irrevocable, and whatever it is, it is. A irrevocable trust means that once it's set in stone. You cannot change it. So even if you're angry with the beneficiary, at some point it's too late. You've already set it in stone. So those are the two main types. There are also, like I said, several other types that are less common, but those are the two main ones. So the question of when or even if you should put your property in a trust is dependent upon your specific needs, who you have as a beneficiary, what you want them to gain from it. Do you need to ensure that the transition is smooth and easy? Are you looking for some tax benefit? Are you looking to relinquish ownership and control? Do you no longer need to benefit from it yourself? So there are a lot of conditions that would determine if or when you decide to put it into a trust. So there's no right or wrong answer as to when, but understand the conditions and the situation that will change for you in terms of ownership and control of the asset once you do it. And understand whether you want this to be revocable or irrevocable when you do it. If you know that you have an illness, if you know you're going to be disabled for some reason, if you know that you're going to be financially destitute, you know you're facing creditors or a lawsuit, then those could be things that make you make a decision quickly as to whether or not to put it in the trust. But in general, most people want to have ownership and control of the asset for as long as they're able and as long as it's beneficial to them. So there's no right or wrong answer as to when, but it does matter when you put it into a trust, because once you put it in a trust, it is, again, you no longer have ownership and control. So love the question. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Please like, share, subscribe, keep the questions coming, and I'll see you next Tuesday.